Honorable Speaker, I don't want to dwell so much on that, but what I want to say is the President, when I listened to his speech, under paragraph 71 and paragraph 72, the President mentioned about listening and learning. Honorable Speaker, that tone in itself was very positive for us to grow as a country. And Honorable Speaker, other honorable members have been able to speak about subsidizing production. I don't want to dwell so much about it, but what is spectacular about it is seeing 17 factories, sugar factories, roaring, coming back to life and giving a lot of life, quality of life to our people. I was in Kericho, and I was told in a week, 90 million Kenya shillings is dispensed to people there from sugar, those sugar farmers. And that is a positive. Honorable Speaker, I don't want to talk about Taifa Care, which I will call maybe RUTO Care, because this House is discussing about the Cancer Prevention and Control Bill. And as a result of this Taifa Care, we may be able to say that we will achieve something. Honorable Speaker, I just want to conclude by saying that because of time, RUTO is a great leader. And where we are working as a country, we are working from what we will call a comfort zone to an area where we are really meeting the dividends of development, Honorable Speaker. And I want to say that we are in the right trajectory, Honorable Speaker, and this is the road not taken. And RUTO has chosen to take this route. All these other manifestos, Honorable Speaker, were speaking about housing, was speaking about universal health care. They were speaking all this, but none of those manifestos, even the Jubilee Manifesto, was able to deliver on this
half a minute just to conclude.
Thank you, Speaker. I wanted to conclude by saying this is the only time that we are trying to venture into the unknown, into what others were fearing to venture into. And as a country, we are in the right trajectory. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
MP for Ikolomani, followed by the MP for Migori, Madam Fatuma Mohammed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this chance to join my colleagues in applauding the speech of the President on nation address. Mr. Speaker, the speech of the President highlighted several sectors of the economy. I might not have time to comment on all, but a few that I'll get time to, Mr. Speaker. Your Excellency has highlighted issues on coffee and development of coffee. In 2000, Mr. Speaker, Kenya was the leading exporter of coffee. But now, we are only doing 51,000 tons, and Uganda, the country we were leading, is doing 500,000. The allocation of more money in coffee from 2.7 billion to 6 billion, Mr. Speaker, is the right path for development of coffee. I encourage more money going into coffee sherry, Mr. Speaker, to provide seeds like the Uganda was done to farmers for free. Mr. Speaker, this will see more foreign currency coming in, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on employment of our youth, Mr. Speaker, I wish to confirm and confess that I visited National Employment Authority, who are located somewhere in Kasarani, Mr. Speaker. There are a lot of employment going on for our youth and employment opportunities, Mr. Speaker. What lacks is sensitization of our youth on how to get this employment. Mr. Speaker, the location of their offices is another issue, Mr. Speaker, where they are, but I'm glad Mr. Speaker, I was informed that they are building new offices in somewhere in Kangemi, Mr. Speaker, where accessibility will become easy for our youth, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on the same, we need to allocate more money to National Employment Authority so that they can employ staff in counties where youth cannot reach here, so that they are sensitized enough. And our members in this House, I believe we need a session with this particular authority so that members are aware of their job opportunities, and the same is cascaded to our people, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on the mining sector, Mr. Speaker, as it is now, specifically like gold, Mr. Speaker, gold is being traded on black market. Thus, it does not provide the requisite royalties to areas that are producing gold. In Western region, Mr. Speaker, the first gold refinery accredited internationally is being built, which will end, Mr. Speaker, the black market trade of gold, so that our small artisan miners can earn something and be able to sell their gold at international prices, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there is a set of laws that is coming to this House, both by private members and the government, Mr. Speaker, to regulate and make sure we bring together artisanal miners into cooperatives so that they can realize the value of what they mine and what they work for, in, Mr. Speaker, in the sector of gold. Mr. Speaker, let me also talk about education. Mr. Speaker, this is a sector which is consuming a lot of money. Mr. Speaker, the efforts being done by the government by employing more teachers is applaudable, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, there are still challenges that we need to overcome. Mr. Speaker, I'm happy that the Ministry of Education and Treasury are taking efforts to make sure more infrastructure is done in this school to accommodate this, especially the JSS students, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it's my wish that the JSS, because of the curriculum that they are undergoing, they should be accommodated in secondary school, because in next year we shall not have Form 1s, Mr. Speaker. This is an area I think, Mr. Speaker, needs to be looked at. And the manner in which construction of new classes is being done, Mr. Speaker, needs to be up.
MP for Migori.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. I stand to support with positivity the statements of the President of the Republic of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, I am a Muslim, and in my religion I'm taught that when something is good, please do not make it muddy. Honestly, for the first time, I agree in totality with all the issues that the President touched on. And with sincerity, I think majority of Kenyans are equally happy. But there must be a few who are not happy, and that is normal. But at the end of the day, the President is a politician. He must have critics, and that is okay. But as Kenyans, I want to tell my fellow Kenyans that this country does not belong to the President. He cannot think for us. We need to think together and criticize positively. We need to give ideas. Don't just criticize with no good idea or new idea. So I stand here saying that I am in support of the Taifa, Shashi, whichever name it may be called, it doesn't matter, because any name you give to a flower, it will still smell the same. So this health cover is going to help wananchi. Personally, I know that I'm being deducted 27,000 from my salary to go towards this health cover. Any citizen with sober mind, cannot say this idea is not noble. After all, majority of us are not working. The few of us who are working, we are saying, please, Mr. President, take that money off my salary and let Wanjiko and Atieno and Amina get health cover that will work for them. I support that system. Mr. Speaker, I also stand here to support the idea that truly the dollar has gone down. I am a witness. I bought a few things in January last year, and by the time I was paying, I really cursed the president. Little did I know that he was working on this. I really wish I'd stayed to buy my stuff that I bought at that period, because now the dollar really is shining. So, Mr. Speaker, I appreciate that effect that the dollar is now at an affordable rate that makes even food stuff go down and business workable for us. Mr. Speaker, I'm also in support of the security system that Mr. President was talking about. Truly, our girls and women are now being threatened by these unnecessary deaths that are occurring in the country. But I also want to urge the churches that this is where you are needed most. And I'm begging the churches that please, our religious leaders, kindly let us concentrate on godly affairs. I agree that it is your responsibility to check on the government and the leadership of this country. But look at our girls who are being killed every day. What do you do on Sunday when they come? What do you teach them when they come? In our mosque, what do we tell our girls when they come for prayers? That, dear girls, the government cannot protect you when you enter a lodging with the wrong man. The government will only catch that person after killing you, and the president will not be able to pay your family or give life back to you. So it is the responsibility of our parents, as the parents, and responsibility of the churches, because they are supposed to give direction. As leaders, there's very little we can do other than speak about it in public barazas. But what will I do if Fatuma decided to walk in with the wrong man in a wrong place at night? So my dear girls who are in school, my dear parents who are out there, this responsibility is yours, and the government's responsibility is very limited, other than give a speech and say, we will see what we can do about it. Mr. Speaker, I want to appreciate also the fact that the security generally in Kenya truly is not good. But this is the effect of non-employment. And unemployment can only be solved when the dollar is down, so that the investor will have confidence to come to Kenya and invest. When security for a person who wants to come and invest here is guaranteed, and when the condition for doing business here is manageable. So I would request the president that there are too many licenses that those who want to do business who come from outside to come to this country want to do business here. There are so many people in middle that make it very difficult for an investor even to be licensed. So I'm requesting the president also check into this so that we can have an opportunity to get this investment so that the jobs can be created. I come from sugarcane farming area, which is Migori County, and I'm very happy that Sony Sugar Company will now be working again. So job employment, I believe our farmers will be very happy. For the first time, they'll be getting their payment, and I congratulate the president, and I pray that may Allah give you more guidance, and may he give you people who guide you to do the right thing than those who just criticize you. Thanks to God.
Okay, you have half a minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also want to tell my fellow leaders, and those who are already out, who went out by default or not default, that please advise the president on the right track. Since ODM donated our men and women who have knowledge in leadership, you can now see the president is being guided to the right direction. Other than those who are now dancing to Dombolo, I don't know, Mugithi and what, who are misleading the president instead of helping the president lead this country. I am asking the current deputy president, I can see you're a good man. I can see a good man from a distance. Please help the president, and please do not be over-ambitious. Your time will come, and if you help Kenyans, Kenyans will reward you. May God bless Kenya. May God bless our leadership.
Honorable Mawade, followed by Ma Zamzam. Zamzam, you are after Mawade.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to also contribute. Mr. Speaker, as per my observation, I find that there was a lot that was left to be desired. On the Adani deal, yes, there was pronunciation for the cancellation of the two, but there were three. There is still the 104 billion shillings that was still in the SHA for the software supply, the SHA-SHI software. As far as the insurance for the common mwananchi, just changing the name to Taifa or any other name from SHA, SHI, or I don't know, SHO, we should have retained. We should have retained the NHIF and just improve on it, and I'm sure would have, achieved more. There are so many people on TV every evening that are missing out, going to the hospital, and yet they're not able to get services. There's a lot that needs to be done to really achieve this. The university funding model is still a big challenge to the wananchi out there. I would have hoped that the president would have really come here and pronounce and say that he's going back to the old model of the funding model. There are so many unemployed youth out there. And what we wanted to hear, what the common mwananchi and the youth out there wanted to hear is that this is what we are doing to create employment. This is what we are doing to create employment. But that did not come through. Because most of the youth, every year, we have graduates that are leaving universities, but there was no solution to how they can create or gain employment on that. Kenya, the cost of electricity in Kenya is very, very high compared to our neighbors. The industries are fleeing the country to go to our neighboring countries because of the high cost of electricity. I was hoping that the president would come here and say that we will reduce the cost of electricity so that we're able to at least attract more industries. That way we are able to at least create jobs. There are so many companies in my area, in our area, Mukuru kwa Ruben, that have left the country and gone to Rwanda and Tanzania, especially the EPZ. The cost of living. The cost of living is very high. There is no liquidity in the country. The common mwananchi doesn't have money in his pocket. And what matters for most part is how much you are able to retain. But if we keep on squeezing the common mwananchi's pay slip and taxing them, then they'll not be able to have sufficient to be able to really afford an amicable living. Cost of doing business also in Kenya is equally high because of various licenses that you must acquire before you can be allowed to really do business. And that's why the foreign investors are hesitant to do business. If you notice, there was a lady on TV yesterday night, who was talking about how her property was grabbed by people here in the CBD, and nobody is there to help her. Somebody can just come and bring goons, since they can afford 60 goons, and you're not able to afford, and she was kicked out of her business, and yet she had a 10-year lease, having stayed there for only 2 years. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Zamzam, and then followed by the Honorable Mwalio.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika, na mimi niweze kuchangia kwa hotuba ya rais aliyotoa wiki iliyopita. Mheshimiwa Spika, Mheshimiwa Spika, mgala muue haki yake mpe. Kwa mara ya kwanza mimi nataka niseme katika bunge hili kuweza kumsikiza hotuba ya rais na vitu ambavyo amevifanya Mheshimiwa Spika, si kuvifanya kwa maneno, kwa vitendo ambavyo tumeviona Mheshimiwa Spika. Kwanza niweze kumpongeza kuweza kutoa ajira kwa vijana wa taifa hili Mheshimiwa Spika. Mimi mwenyewe nimekuwa katika sekta ya ajira kwa miaka 25. Mheshimiwa Spika, niliweza kuwasafirisha vijana 65,000 wakaenda kupata ajira nje. Na naona mkondo huu ambao rais amechukua, hata ukiangalia katika mataifa ya Philippines, Indonesia, India, wote wameshika ile market ambayo iko katika Middle East Mheshimiwa Spika. Na hizi si ajira tu za kazi za ndani peke yake Mheshimiwa Spika, ametoa ajira ya madaktari, nurses, engineers, yani katika sekta tofauti Mheshimiwa Spika. Mimi nataka kumpongeza kwa kazi 1,103 ambazo amezitoa hivi karibuni kwa vijana wetu Mheshimiwa Spika. Nataka pia nimpongeze rais kwa Taifa Care Mheshimiwa Spika. Hii ni huduma ya afya ambayo itashika mpaka yule mwananchi wa chini ambaye hayuko kwenye mshahara Mheshimiwa Spika. Ameitoa hii ili kuweza kusaidia yule mama ambaye anauza maji, mama mwenye kusukuma mkokoteni, na wale ambao wako katika maisha duni Mheshimiwa Spika, ili wakuweza kwenda hospitali waweze kupata huduma Mheshimiwa Spika. Niweze pia kumpongeza kwa mara ya kwanza mwaka huu Kenya hatujapata njaa Mheshimiwa Spika. Na hii ni kwa sababu mwaka jana rais aliweza kuwekeza kwenye ukulima, na kweli tumeona matunda ya ukulima. Chakula kimejaa, wananchi wamekaa vizuri, ukiangalia utapata mahindi yako sawa, unga uko sawa kwenye maduka. Wananchi wa Kenya wamekaa hawajalala njaa Mheshimiwa Spika. Niweze kumpongeza rais kwa kuweza kufanya hivyo na kuweza kuzalisha mazao ya shambani Mheshimiwa Spika. Jambo lingine pia Mheshimiwa Spika, nimpongeze katika mfumo wa CBC. Tulikuwa hapa bungeni tukilalamika kuwa hakuna madarasa, lakini hata hivi weekend Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi naenda Mombasa kuenda kuweka jiwe la msingi katika shule ambazo zimetolewa hivi karibuni, ambayo ni mradi ambao umewekwa na rais kuweza kuongeza madarasa ya CBC Mheshimiwa Spika, ili watoto wetu wa JSS waweze kusoma vizuri Mheshimiwa Spika. Mheshimiwa Spika, nikiangalia katika sekta ya miwa, ukuzaji wa miwa wa sukari, sasa sukari ilikuwa tunapata kama 40,000 tons. Sasa imeongezeka imekuwa 84 tons Mheshimiwa Spika, ambayo imetufanya sisi tusiweze kutoa sukari kutoka nje, tunakula sukari ya hapa nyumbani. Niweze kumpongeza rais kwa juhudi zake Mheshimiwa Spika. Mheshimiwa Spika, wajua kila kitu kinachukua muda. Na mimi kitu nilichogundua ni kuwa rais alikuwa pengine hana ile timu ambayo inaweza kumzungumzia yale mambo mazuri ambayo amefanya. Lakini kwa yote ambayo amekuja katuelezea, nimeenda moja baada ya moja, nikapata si kama yale wanaosema kwenye mitandao kuwa mtu mrongo, hapana. Na kupongeza rais, na hata ukisikia watu wanakurushia mawe, yachukue uyajenge taifa. Manake hata ukafanya kitu kizuri, mtu mbaya siku zote atakutoa aibu wakati ambapo umefanya kitu kizuri Mheshimiwa Spika. Kwa hiyo mimi nampongeza rais kwa juhudi ambazo amefanya. Jambo lingine amezungumzia mambo ya femicide ama mauaji ya kiolela kwa wanawake Mheshimiwa Spika. Hili ni jambo ambalo limetugusa kina mama wengi sana. Na hata juzi nimeona Nakuru, mchungaji wa kanisani ameweza kumdhuru na kumkata mke wake vibaya sana. Na sisi tunajua kanisa ndio linafaa liwe mbele kuweza kuleta amani katika ndoa. Si yeye tu, kuna wengine ambao sio katika makanisa lakini wako kule nje ambao wanaua wanawake Mheshimiwa Spika. Rais ameweza kuzungumzia jambo hili na ametuhakikishia kuwa wanawake wa taifa hili wataweza kupewa ulinzi. Lakini kama alivyosema mwenzangu, ulinzi unaanza na wewe mwanamke mwenyewe. Usijitoe waziwazi kwenda kwenye mahoteli, kwenda kwenye BNB, hujui mtu anaenda na kumalizia huko, kisha tunaanza kusumbua president na mambo yetu ama stara zetu. Wanawake tuwe macho, tuweze kujichunga sisi wenyewe. Mheshimiwa Spika, najua alisahau kuzungumzia mambo ya blue economy, lakini nataka nipongeze mpaka waziri wetu ambaye ni mgeni ameweza kufanya kazi kubwa sana, na tunaona matunda makubwa sana ya blue economy. Kina mama Mombasa wanafanya biashara na wamepata pesa za kufanya biashara. Kwa hiyo mimi nampongeza sana rais. Nataka nimpongeze rais kwa juhudi ambazo wamefanya kutupatia waziri ambayo ni mchapakazi kama alivyosema mwenzangu. Wamekuja wamepiga jeki na tunaona matunda kwa sababu ya uwiano. Nataka niwaambie Wakenya tuweze kumwombea rais dua aweze kutupeleka katika njia sawa. Kila siku kitukana kiongozi, hata vitabu vimeandikwa kuwa tuheshimu viongozi na tuombe Mungu tuelekeze katika njia sawa. Nilikuwa mmoja katika wale tulikuwa tukimchapa fimbo, lakini kwa haya ambayo amefanya Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi nataka kusema nitakuwa mbele katika wale wanaomwombea dua na katika wale ambao watampa support aweze kuongoza taifa letu, tuzidi kuona matunda. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika.
Mheshimiwa Mwalio.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker,
MP
for the opportunity that you have given me to be able to air my views about the President's speech. I want to say that this is one of the best speeches that the President has given since he was sworn in the office. And I want to say that having said that he is listening to the people, that is a plus. Because even the Bible says that two cannot work together until they agree. So the President has started agreeing with the common mwananchi, with the Kenyans, and they have started a discussion together. That is why he was able even to invite some young people, speak to them, and also some church leaders, speak to them, some opinion leaders, speak to them, so that we can be in the same wavelength. So, and in the conclusion, he said he will still continue to listen to them. That means he wants to move with them as he governs this country, so that he can know what is ailing the people that he is leading. And that is a plus, as I have said before. What I have seen is the best model of the university funding and the tippets. I can say that this year alone, I have seen a growth of the tippet that is in my constituency, which I started in 2018 when I came to the office in 2017. And for the first time, I had only 500 students for 5 years. But this year alone, because of this funding model, the students who have enrolled in that tippet are now almost, let's say, 6 times, because now there are 3,120. That means there is something good that is happening in the funding of education, because every child is able to go to school, the government is able to pay for them, the government is able to train, the government is able to send even the teachers. We had only 10 teachers. Now I have over 30 teachers who have been posted by the Tippet department, by the PS of Tippet. So what I can say is that at the end of it all, we are going to train young people that are going to be skilled to be able even to start their own companies, because they are learning technical skills which they can be able to use once they have been able to graduate from the colleges. Again, the jobs opportunities that are opening up in the overseas countries, in Canada, in Qatar, in UK, and also in Germany, where the government has been able to sign even some agreements. Like in September, we saw a very long queue in KICC, where young people were filling some forms to apply for those jobs. And some of them have been taken. One of the young persons sent me a text 2 days ago. He says, look at me, I am now in Qatar. I've already gotten the job. I have flown there. Somebody who has been staying here in this country, having been trained 3-4 years ago and has never gotten a job, now has gotten a job. What a joy for the parents that used to spend money to send them to school, and now they are getting employed. So we want to say thank you very much for the president. In finishing, I can say, the sheep and the SHA is the game changer, because everybody who is in this country will have a card to go and be treated in the hospitals without paying any money. Even the poor that are in our constituencies will be able to be treated. For example, I've been paying for the vulnerable 560 old people.
Give him half a minute. Half a minute to conclude.
Yes, I've been paying with the CDF in my constituency. We have been paying 560 households, whereby we had been paying NHIF. Now we are transferring them to SHIP. And I know when you multiply the father and the mother, that is 1,120 people, which is a plus. So to me, this is a game changer, and we should encourage it even to come to full realization so that people can stop murmuring. What I have told my people is to register as many as possible, because there is no reverse gear. That it has to be either SHIP or you are nowhere. So thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I thank you for those few minutes.
The Honorable Mulanya of Nambale, followed by the Honorable Manduku, and then Nimrod Mbai. Proceed in that order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to debate the President's speech. Mr. Speaker, having listened to the President on the day he gave the speech in this House, I was a very happy person, because this was a very progressive speech, and the one that will help move our nation forward. At the moment, we know that we are faced with so many challenges that Kenyans are crying that as a House, you need to come to their aid and correct. But the President has given us food for thought on what you're supposed to do. Personally, I have 4 take-homes on the speech. First, on food security. The people of Nambale I represent were one of the beneficiaries of the President's program on subsidy fertilizer. Mr. Speaker, initially our people used to buy fertilizer at 6,000 or 7,000. And also, the main depot was 70 kilometers away. I personally made the initiative to move it closer to people by creating a mini depot using my NGCDF office. And I'll urge the Minister of Agriculture to support the President on this particular initiative by ensuring that we have many collection centers, even at ward level, because we are talking about farmers. Mr. Speaker, affording even 2,500 to many Kenyans is a tall order. Now that one is minus transport. So if we centralize this thing at the ward level, we are going to have many beneficiaries, many Kenyans are going to access it, and we'll ensure that we'll never have hunger in our country as it was experienced in the year 2022-2023. Further, I also noted the comment by the President on sugarcane. Coming from sugarcane belt, Mr. Speaker, I'm a happy person that the President put ink on the sugarcane bill. Now we have the Sugarcane Act. This act is going to help control the production and sale of the sugarcane in this particular country. The President was also very progressive by encouraging Kenya that instead of being sugar importing nation, let's be sugar exporting nation. By doing so, the production is going to increase. We are going to have many factories, and by doing that, we are going to create many jobs and even improve on our GDP by exporting sugar from our country. This is extremely progressive, so that we should not encourage sugar barons to bring and dump sugar in our country, then discourage farmers, whereby the output from the farm will be very low. However, Mr. Speaker, still on the sugarcane production, I'll urge the Minister of Agriculture to ensure that as we put in the Sugarcane Act, let's ensure that we control the price of patronage for the farmers, so that a farmer does not go home empty-handed after toiling for 18 months to ensure that he produces sugar and supports the economy of this nation. Mr. Speaker, again, the other issue was on corruption. The president again gave us a take-home, and he challenged the House that why should we have election petitions concluded within 6 months? And yet, we have corruption cases taking 10 years. If we reflect back, the period when election petitions were not controlled, the period within which election petitions was concluded was not controlled. We note that a member will serve a whole term while the petitioner is still struggling in the court corridors. So also, this one has helped reduce election malpractice. And by reducing the period within which to litigate on corruption cases, it will help our nation by discouraging people from engaging in this vice called corruption. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, on the issue of universal health care, there's a positive that the president is encouraging Kenyans to embrace this particular mode of financing a health system in this country. The president's wish is to have all Kenyans access free health care in this country. We note that under the Taifa Care, when you register today, you get service today or tomorrow. Compared to that to NHIF, you register, there's a grace period of 6 months. So before you can get service. We say this is a plus. I encourage.
Okay. Honorable Manduku, followed by Madam Sioi. Oh, Nimrod. Yes, Nimrod.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yes. Mr. Speaker, having had the advantage of listening to the President's speech and having read the actual speech, I want to confirm that from where I sit, the speech was factual, it was persuasive, and it touched the pulse of the nation. In fact, by his own admission, and as captured in paragraph 7, the President, for once, listened to the people. And it's not just in the delivery of the speech, but even the style in which it was written, and the context and the content therein. Having said that, Mr. Speaker, and reading this speech again and again, I can see that the vision of the President is that Kenya should be on the right trajectory. Let me highlight some of the areas that I think the President should have improved on. Mr. Speaker, on the issue of Taifa Care, most people may want to understand that this model is largely borrowed from the United Kingdom's health service model, the NHS. But the concern of most Kenyans, and especially the people whom I represent from Nyaribari Masava, is on the coverage, the access, affordability, the quality of the healthcare, the transition from NHIF to SHIF, the sustainability of this system, and largely, how inclusive this system shall remain. On the issue of the economy, which the President aptly captured, people are still concerned about the cost of living, job creation, debt management. This House resolved in the debt management system that we should borrow a mix of 30-70%, 30 being domestic and 70 being international, and yet the National Treasury has not achieved those numbers. We still have to talk about economic growth, financial inclusion, and especially with regard to the SMEs. Mr. Speaker, I want to laud the President for talking and acting on the issue of femicide. From where I sit, Mr. Speaker, allow me to condemn this vice and urge this House to make a legal framework as soon as possible so that we can support the initiatives that the President has so well elaborated. I also want to urge the civil society to come on board and sensitize Kenyans on the dangers and the vices that come with femicide. Mr. Speaker, something that touches on our people so much is on the issue of education. We still have a few challenges in the transition to the competency-based curriculum. Mr. Speaker, what people want to hear and know is an assurance that there shall be 100% transition from primary to secondary and eventually to university, and then thereafter to the job market. Our people also want to be assured of the quality and that there shall be equity, and that we shall always engage stakeholders in any decisions that we make in as far as the issue of education is concerned. Mr. Speaker, the President did not mention anything to do with the reconstitution of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. We know that this matter is in court, but we think that having had a chance, he should have shown that he is an interested party in making sure that we have this body reconstituted as soon as possible. He also did not mention where all his vision lies or aligns with the Vision 2030, which we know is the economic blueprint that this country so well adopted. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, on the issue of housing, I would urge those involved to fast track the agenda and make sure that as soon as possible, we have as many houses being built so that they can have the economic stimulus that was supposed to inject into the economy. Having said that, Mr. Speaker, on a wholesome, I want to thank the President for listening to Kenyans for once. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Nimrod, and then COE.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to add my voice and the voice of the people of Kitui East in the statement of the President to the nation. Mr. Speaker, I have a few issues to mention. One is, Mr. Speaker, President William RUTO was elected by Kenyans, and we all know him. And we had him here the other day speaking to the country. And we've listened to this House from morning, members elected by people commending what the President has done positively. Speaker after speaker, positively. But Mr. Speaker, we have a nation, and to be truthful, not the truthful of the untruthful man, but to be truthful, there is a narrative out there by the media, from activists, that they've created another RUTO, which they want to scare the Kenyans with. RUTO was here speaking to the nation. This is Parliament. We've listened to members. These are members elected by the people of Kenya. They are happy with what the President has presented before the country. For example, Mr. Speaker, Kenya is a working nation, and the President has elaborated his plans on how he is going to create a working environment for Kenyans, and especially the youth, to create wealth without looking for employment. A young man using the internet and a laptop, making his own money, and he's not going around looking for jobs, going around with CVs. Mr. Speaker, what else would you expect from a president if that is not good enough? Mr. Speaker, talk of the PPP, the public-private partnership. We know there's no country which can raise enough money to sustain itself. Even the America, the great economy of the Americans, are borrowed from China. They have a loan from the Chinese. And if we borrowed to some point and we still need some money to grow our economy, we have to turn towards public-private partnership. And there's an ideology which came to my mind when the President was talking about the PPP. Take a fresh graduate from the university, a medical student. This young man is not interested in employment. is interested in creating his own business. And through PPP and the government coming in as a guarantor, the young man can get medical equipment, can get space to open his own hospital, his own facility, apply what he learned in school, employ others. Instead of this young man looking for a job, he becomes an employer, Mr. Speaker, just through PPP. So our people need to understand this new term. And those people out there, the media owners, who have these editorial policies of shaping a RUTO which they want Kenyans to know who is the wrong RUTO. We know the right RUTO, who understands where he's taking the nation. Mr. Speaker, I would urge leaders, it's the high time, because we are representing people, we listen to the president. Let's get out there. This media is not louder than us. This media cannot get to the villages better than us. Let's get to the villages. Let's talk to our people about this Taifa Care. Sure, it's working. Mr. Speaker, a cousin of mine the other day had a bill of 50,000, and it was cleared through SHA, 100%. What else would we expect, Mr. Speaker? Lastly, Mr. Speaker, I can see my time is running, but allow me to say something about democracy. His Excellency Honorable William Ruto has put the democracy in our country to another level. This country can never turn back to dictatorship. We have seen the president ceding ground on issues which Kenyans have complained about. Our whole finance bill, the president dropped just because he listened to Kenyans. The president dropped the Adan deal because Kenyans had issues with it. But just recently, Mr. Speaker,
Half a minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We've had heads of state who have literally had contempt of court. The court says this, and our president goes ahead and does against what the court has said. But this is a president who is listening to the people and changing his mind to follow the people. The church, imagine a president who will go and give some offering in a church, and a priest will say, we don't want that, this offering. Take it back to the president. And the president is democratic enough and says, bring back, I'm okay. I'll look for a way of getting my offering to God if, Mr. Priest, you don't want it. So I would want us to allow the president and also push the democracy of our country to another level where Kenya will never deteriorate back to the...
Madam Sioi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this chance to support and applaud the President for the good work done and for his speech last week. And I want to say, Mr. Speaker, if there is something that I really appreciate about our President, is the fact that he has realized that basic needs in this country has to be taken care of. And that is why he has touched each and every sector on food, on health, on shelter, and on education. And to start with, Mr. Speaker, I want to start with food sector. I come from Trans Nzoia County, where we largely depend on agriculture. And Mr. Speaker, it is prudent that when we came in 2022, maize was very expensive, and that is to say unga was very expensive. And because the president had promised to bring down the cost of unga, I am proud and happy to announce, as the president said last week, unga has gone down, and this was done through a subsidy on fertilizer. He thought it clear that it is important to subsidize fertilizer, ensure that we reduce the cost of production instead of reducing the cost of consumption. And by so doing, Mr. Speaker, at the moment we are enjoying enough food in this country. And as you can see, that is why we have too much noise because people are full. People people are okay at the moment. The only thing that we are still working on is to ensure that they are busy. I know when people are idle, most of the time you'll realize the noise goes up. But the president is also working on ensuring that Kenyans get jobs. And just to start with, when we came in, employment for teachers was a problem. For the longest period, Mr. Speaker, this is the first time that teachers have been employed in large numbers. And I would wish to request the president that we continue employing more teachers, because we have teachers who are almost retiring before even they get employment. So if we do so, we would have helped them and we would have encouraged other teachers to join education career. To add on, Mr. Speaker, I also want to speak on SHA. SHA is very important in this country. And on this social health authority, I want to say that the president has thought of pulling the common mwananchi, that person at the bottom, to ensure that he also feels and gets the equal treatment like any other person who is employed. And that is why NHIF was charging common mwananchi 500 shillings, but at the moment they are charging 300 shillings. And in a scenario that somebody is too poor to even afford the 300 shillings, the government is willing and ready to pay for those ones who are not able to pay. And by so doing, Mr. Speaker, I want to applaud the president, because this is a very important initiative that will ensure that all our Kenyans get health services. And by so doing also, as members of parliament, we are going to be relieved, because most of the time we've been called upon to come and attend harambes to help our people get treatment. And now I think this will come to an end if SHA is going to start working promptly. I also want to speak about the currency, Mr. Speaker. When we came in, the shilling had no value. But at the moment, our shilling is very strong. And this contributes so much on business people who have been importing things, and even generally in the country, because our shilling has now gained value. I want to appreciate and applaud the president for that, and we don't take it for granted. I also want to talk about the airport expansion. I've seen people say that they want to applaud the president for listening to the people. But as much as he has listened to the people, I want to believe it is because of the Adani deal, whereby Adani was corrupt, as we saw the other day when he was brought on TV, that he had entered into corrupt businesses in US. But we still want to lease out our airport to somebody, an investor who can come and expand our airport. By so doing, I know we'll be creating more job opportunities for our youth, because this...
Give her half a minute just to conclude.
Thank you. Because our airport at the moment, Mr. Speaker, is too small to accommodate or to expand or get more job opportunities for Kenyans. So if we are able to expand our airport, I am so sure that we are going to create job opportunities to our youth, and we will have more people in job opportunities, we'll have more people in business, and we'll have a number of people coming to connect from Kenya to other countries. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker.
Followed by Ruwaida and then Naomi Wako. Proceed.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika. Mheshimiwa Spika, nitoe kongole kwa hotuba ya Rais Daktari William Ruto, na katika hotuba yake amezungumzia mambo mengi sana. Jambo la kwanza niweze kukubaliana na yeye ya kwamba shilingi yetu ya Kenya imeweza kujizatiti na imeweza kufika kwa dola moja ikawa 129 kutoka dola moja kwa shilingi 162. Hiyo inamaanisha ya kwamba tunaelekea katika mkondo sawia wa mambo ya kiuchumi. Hivyo basi jambo hili linaweza kuwashawishi sana wawekezaji kutoka mataifa tofauti na wale pia wanaotoka nchini pamoja na wafanyi biashara. Hivyo basi tumeona ya kwamba katika jambo hili la shilingi yetu kuweza kunawiri na kuweza kujizatiti juu ya dola, tumeona ya kwamba hata mambo kama yale tunasema Kiingereza special economic zone, kama kule kwangu Likoni, tunaona mpaka sasa takriban wawekezaji 98 wameweza kuleta barua ya kusema ya kwamba wataekeza katika sehemu ile. Hiyo inamaanisha uchumi wa taifa la Kenya utaweza kupanuka na pia ajira zitaweza kuwa nyingi kwa vijana wetu. Mheshimiwa Rais pia amezungumzia njia ya kutafuta ajira pasi na ajira zile zilioko katika taifa letu la Kenya. Na tumeona ametafuta ajira katika bara Europa, ametafuta ajira katika bara Asia na bara nyingine. Na niseme ya kwamba jambo hili ni jambo zuri, lakini tu kuna wale ambao wahusika kidogo wanamwangusha Mheshimiwa Rais. Kwa sababu nafasi hizi zinavyotokea hazisambazwi kwa njia ya usawa na uadilifu katika zile kaunti zetu 47. Haswa tukiangalia kuna kaunti kama kule kaskazini mashariki kwa Kiingereza Northeastern, kama sehemu za Pwani na sehemu zingine za Kame. Nafasi kama hizi zinakuwa hazifiki. Hivyo basi Wakenya wanaona pengine jambo hili halifanyiki, na kumbe jambo hili linafanyika, tena linafanyika kwa hisabu za juu sana. Yaani malaki ya watoto wameenda kufanya kazi katika sehemu hizo za nje. Kwa hivyo tunasema wale wahusika waangalie wataweka Ukenya katika jambo kama hili ambalo wanalifanya. Vile vile katika kufufua viwanda vyetu vya sukari, tumesema viwanda vya sukari vinapofufuliwa, kwanza uchumi unaimarika. Pili pia tunajenga ajira. Vile vile pia tunapunguza hali ya maisha kwa Wakenya, kwa sababu bei ya sukari itaweza kushuka chini. Kama vile vile shilingi inavyonawirika, tunaona bidhaa kama vile unga, bidhaa kama mafuta zinaweza kushuka chini. Kwa hivyo mimi nataka niseme ya kwamba jambo hili la kuweka viwanda vya sukari kuja chini, kuboreshwa ni zuri sana. Hivyo basi tunaomba hata kiwanja kile cha Ramisi kule Kwale katika eneo la Pwani kiweze kufufuliwa, kiweze kuimarishwa na uchumi uweze kupanuka pale. Jambo jingine ambalo nataka kuzungumzia ni kwamba ni swala la elimu. Rais amelizungumzia sana swala la elimu, na akazungumzia ya kwamba kuna walimu wengi sana walioandikwa wakati wa nyuma, na hivi sasa pia walimu takriban 20,000 wataweza kuandikwa. Namwambia Mheshimiwa Rais, tunakupongeza kwa jambo hili, lakini narudi tena kusema wale wahusika waweze kusambaza nafasi hizi za walimu katika kaunti zetu zote 47, na waone ya kwamba kuna uadilifu na kuna usawa. Ile Kiingereza tunaongea tunasema equity na equality. Manake tukizungumzia uadilifu na usawa ni kwamba uadilifu kwa zile sehemu ambazo zimekuwa na changamoto zipate walimu zaidi. Swala jingine ni swala la adani. Nimpongeze Rais kwa sakata hii kwa kuweka kikomo, kwa sababu lazima uwekezaji ufuate taratibu na ufuate sheria na utumie fedha ambayo haitamuumiza mwananchi katika taifa la Kenya. Jambo jingine ni dhulma za kijinsia, haswa kwa watoto wetu wa kike. Tumeona watoto wetu wakitekwa nyara, watoto wetu wamekuwa wakiuliwa kikatili. Swala hili vitengo vya usalama lazima vijizatiti, vitengo vya ujasusi lazima vijizatiti, ili tuweke usalama wa kina mama zetu, usalama wa wasichana na usalama wa vijana. Jambo la mwisho amezungumzia umoja.
Mpe nusu dakika.
Amezungumzia umoja wa taifa, na mimi nimpongeze kwa kuweza kuleta uwiano wakati tulikuwa na ghasia zile ambazo tuliona majenzi, na tunajua ya kwamba umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu. Juzi na jana kama asingeleta viongozi wengine na tukao na uwiano, leo tungekuwa wakimbizi katika taifa letu la Kenya. Tungekuwa tunaenda Uganda, tunaenda Tanzania kutafuta makao. Kwa hivyo tunasema ni vizuri ya kwamba sote ni Wakenya, ulikuwa katika opposition ama ulikuwa katika upinzani, sote ni Wakenya na Wakenya wafaidike, kwa sababu sote tunaweza kutoa ushuru.
Rueda Obo.
Asante Bwana Spika, kunipatia nami nafasi nipate kuchangia katika hotuba ya rais. Kusema la kweli, huyu rais ni msikivu, yani anasikiza maneno. Na hiyo ni sifa ya mwanadamu mzuri. Niende moja kwa moja kwa swala la adani. Ile kukataa kwake, amesikiza. Lakini pia nami niseme, basi hawa KA wamepewa nafasi tena. Kwa sababu sisi pia tunataka kuona ile airport, kile kiwanja cha ndege kimekuwa sawa sana kama zile zingine za Doha. Kuna Wakenya wengi hapa, ukiingia kule Doha unafikiri kama uko Jomo Kenyatta, kwa sababu wameacha makwao kwa shida za kilimwengu. Lakini ikiwa itaendelea ile airport vizuri, tutaandika wale wa hapa, na wale watakao kurudi wanaweza kurudi wakafanya kazi nzuri. Kwa hivyo tunawaambia KA, President amefanya hivyo, na wao wajitahidi hiyo ile airport iwe mzuri. Manake kuna mambo mengi madogo tu wameshindwa kufanya. Kama airport zote ambao ni sura za Kenya, ukiingia kitu cha kwanza unachoona ni ile namna taxi, vyoo. Ukiangalia pale unajua hii ni sura ya Kenya. Vitu vidogo tu vinawashinda. Ukiangalia vyoo ni kidogo, usafi haujakuwa standard kama zile zingine. Taxi unavutwa kama uko sokoni Kongoea labda kule Mombasa. Hawawezi kuweka line. Na nimeuliza swali bunge nikamwita waziri hapa, haijawahi kufanyika bado. Sijui sababu ni nini. Mimi ilikuwa nataka, hamu yangu kubwa ni ile airport ibadilike, iwe kama airport za wengine. Sisi tunaambiwa hapa East Africa, sisi ndio big brother, lakini ukiangalia airport zetu zinatupatia sura mbaya ya Kenya. Lengine naweza kusema, nimependezwa sana na hotuba ya rais na nampongeza vile alivyosema, mengi aliyosema. Kusema la kweli, anafaa kupewa muda. Ako na nia mzuri ya kuendeleza hii nchi. Akipewa muda afanye, naona kutabadilika. Amezungumzia pia masuala kwamba alipoingia madeni yalikuwa yako mengi, lakini hangeweza kuongeza tu madeni kwa sababu ametumia hikma. Tukiongeza madeni tu sisi tungepigwa mnada kama nchi zingine. So Wakenya pia wataka waangalie haya mambo yanavyokwenda, tusiwe tukieka tu malawama. Tumeshukuru, lakini sahihi ametuliza Wakenya, naona wamefurahi pia. Rais pia amezungumza apunguze matumizi na ubadhirifu katika speech yake, ambayo ni jambo zuri Wakenya wanataka kusikia. Manake hii Kenya kusema la kweli tunajiweza. Inapora kweli, lakini utaona imesimama. Je, kama haiporwi, si Kenya tungekuwa tuko mbali zaidi? So ni vizuri hilo swali la ubadhirifu wa pesa liangaziwe. Nimefurahi sana hapo. Kusema alizungumzia pia juu la bidhaa zimepungua bei. Ni ukweli, tusemeni ukweli, wafaa kusemwa. Kuna sehemu bidhaa zingine zilikuwa ghali kama unga, bei yake ilikuwa niko juu, na sasa utaona imerudi chini. Hapo tutafaa kumpongeza. Mtu akifanya usawa aambiwe amefanya usawa. Shilingi kama wenzangu walivyoendelea kuzungumza hapa, imepata thamani. Ilivyokuwa na sasa ni tofauti. Wale wanafanya biashara wanaona hiyo tofauti. Pia hapo nampongeza. Ile swala la kuandika walimu. Kuandika walimu ni jambo zuri, ambapo tunatarajia sisi kaunti zetu au maeneo bunge yetu tutafanya mtihani sawa na wengine, si mtihani tofauti. Shule yangu kama ya Siu ilikuwa ndio shule imetoka namba mwisho kule Lamu East, la Mashariki. Lakini ukienda lawama si la shule, mwanafunzi lawama si la mwalimu, mwanafunzi hajawahi ona mwalimu wa chemistry kutoka shule ianze kujengwa. Sasa utamfanya vipi una huku? So tuwaomba hawa walimu waandikwe, na najua sahihi serikali hii na sisi tuko kwenye mipangilio. Kinachopatikana na sisi tutapata. Afya, nataka niseme sisi wabunge tufanye bidii na watu wetu wajiandikishe katika huu mpangilio. Ni mpangilio mzuri na itasaidia sana Wakenya. Kuhusu manyumba pia ni mpangilio mzuri amezungumza, na yatasaidia, na hii itakuwa legacy ya huyu rais. Watu wengi
Nipe nusu dakika.
Walikuwa wakipinga, lakini wakisema kweli hili jambo likifaulu, hii itakuwa ni legacy ya huyu rais. Amezungumza mambo ya ICT hubs, kweli kule kwetu kama Kiunga, hilo ni jambo muhimu sana kwa sababu sisi tuko mbali na huduma center, services za serikali hatuzipati, itatusaidia sana. Amezungumza GBV na namuona PS na IG pia nao wameshikilia kidete, na tunawakanya wanawake. Hii dunia imekuwa mbaya. Unaamini tu mtu unaenda, mambo inaharibika kisha baadaye. Na hii serikali ni ya broad-based cabinet. Inaona imewakilisha wengine, wataleta
Naomi wako.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for allowing me to contribute on this. This speech that was given by the President as his national address was well written, articulated, and the President spoke to his people. And also he addressed us as leaders who are working with him in this nation. Honorable Speaker, one thing that was very clear is that the President had a lot of passion as he was addressing the nation. The President confirmed that he has been working with the nation, and also confirmed that he is hands-on and is a listening President. As he was speaking, he addressed national values, he addressed principles of governance, he addressed progress on international obligation. Honorable Speaker, many national address has been given. And even for him, since he was sworn in, he has done few others before. But this particular address was so unique because in his speech, he was able to touch on different areas. He captured very well the rapid change that our nation went through since he delivered his last national address. Honorable Speaker, that confirms that our President is concerned on the progress, and it is like after every national address, he knows the activities that need to take place, he knows the project that needs to be accomplished before his next address, and he knows that he needed to capture every activity, every challenge, and every progress that the country goes through. One important thing he mentioned, as I said, is that he said he has improved on his listening skills and he's listening to the people. Honorable Speaker, many are the times that we have been criticized of not listening to the ground. But from this speech, it is quite clear that our President is not working alone, but is working with his people. He's ready to listen, he has been listening, and actions, different actions have been taken based on different challenges that we have gone through. A listening President is a gift to the nation. Many people suffer because they have no one to listen to them. Many people suffer because nobody is ready to give them time to sit and reason with them. The fact that our President has confirmed that he is listening to us confirms that he will be able to grow trust between him and us as leaders, between him and the citizens. Again, it also confirms that communication is built and our communication will be perfected. Again, it also confirms, as a result of that, there'll be healthy working environment. Honorable Speaker, this is what Kenyans need. Because of the tough and rough time that we have gone through, the nation has suffered. And so if we have a listening president, then we are on the right track. Honorable Speaker, the issue of GBV, girls in this nation, women in this nation have suffered. And even those who are in politics have suffered in a way. But our president passionately addressed that. Now that we are in the 16 days of campaign against GBV, Honorable Speaker, we need to speak about that and condemn, and also plead with the police and all the organizations concerned, human rights and others, to take proper measures against anybody.
Give 1 minute to the whip.
Take the necessary action against any man, any person who violates the rights of any woman, so that we can have a good society. Honorable Speaker, I had some few things to say, but with those few remarks, even about the Adani thing, our president has made us proud. Let us work together. Let us work together. Let us plan to do great things for this nation. And I'm sure the next 3-4 years, Kenyans will be happy with the progress. Thank you, and I support the report.
The Honorable Bernard Kitur, followed by the Honorable Mark Mwenje and Joseph Cherorot. In that order. The rest of you will come in the second round.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me also the opportunity on behalf of the people of Nandi Hills to also give our contribution on the State of the Nation address that was made by the President in accordance to Article 132C, where the President is required every year to lay before the House a report on all measures taken and progress achieved on realization of national values, principles of governance, the international obligations, and of course the state of security. In the onset, Mr. Speaker, the President painted a broad picture of positive outlook of our country on account of right decisions that the Kenya Kwanza government has made, and him being the leader of the same. On the overview, Mr. Speaker, it is common knowledge to everyone that all the macroeconomic indicators are positive. Take the easy ones, for instance, Mr. Speaker. In 2022, when we came into leadership, the dollar rate was at around 160. Currently stands at around 130. That tells you there are positive aspects. And of course, there was a lot of complaints around that time on the cost of life that was pretty high. Importation of things was so expensive, making there was a ripple effect in the market. But generally, Mr. Speaker, over time then, we've had and seen, a decrease as well on the inflation rate from 9.6% to 2.7%, largely because of the favorable climatic conditions, equally the right policies, including the fertilizer subsidy that have had a great increase in, for instance, maize production in our country. In 2022, Mr. Speaker, we had about 34 million bags that are being produced. Then 2023, 47 million, and expectations of 2024 standing at 74 million. This means when a society has food, then we are able to have a productive communities. When you look at also all the other indicators, including in the agriculture, Mr. Speaker, talking about sugar, when we noted that sugar industry was on its downtrend, but now we have almost 17 factories up and running, with 4, Mr. Speaker, being refurbished. This has also created, Kenya has always been an importer of sugar, but to realize that we have now exceeded the the current demands of 40,000 metric tons. We now have a production of 84,000 metric tons. These are very positive indicators of the right decisions that the president has been able to make in the last few years, and we are now seeing the results. So this also disapproves the naysayers. I think also it's important for me, when I was talking about the macroeconomic indicators, Mr. Speaker, I wanted to mention about the foreign reserves that now stands at 9.5 billion, which in the last 10 years, we've never had an opportunity. We have about 4.5 months reserve cover. This essentially means for the investors, you can be assured that you can be able to get dollars around. This was a challenge that we had when we were actually coming into power. It was a very serious issue as of then. So these are clear indications. When you also talk about the interest rates, I saw even another institution, financial institutions, that have been posting reduction on the interest rates. What does this mean, Mr. Speaker? It means you can be able now to get capital to do your businesses at a cheaper, cheaper capital within the country. Positivities that is worth mentioning and really celebrating on what the president talked about. Maybe to still touch a bit on agriculture, Mr. Speaker, because this is where I come from. I come from a region where now we are beginning to embrace matters like coffee and milk. I was very impressed.
Give him a minute.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. I just wanted to mention that several things that were mentioned, whether it's housing programs, Mr. Speaker, it is going to have a positive impact in our country. Whether you're talking about the issues of corruption, the President spoke about it. And I would like to join also to appreciate what the government is doing on that space. Finally, I want to talk about the gender-based violence. This vice must be fought by all. And I want to thank the President for taking this head on. Even this House must take this measure that all women in our country must be protected. Men must be able to protect our women. Generally, Mr. Speaker, we thank the President for the very, leadership, very strong leadership that he's been able to provide, to show as a country, and still pray that all the other things that he mentioned shall be achieved. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Manje.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the nation and the people were looking for hope, reassurance, speaking of the economy, speaking about jobs. They want to hear us speaking about growth and address the challenges, Honorable Speaker. Allow me to go straight to some of the issues, Honorable Speaker, that were raised. One was the issue of Adani, which has been a thorn in the flesh in this government to us as honorable members. Honorable Speaker, hearing the president agree to withdraw those contracts was like pulling out a thorn that has pricked you in your foot. It's painful, but it's some good pain because, it was relieving. It's what got members of parliament on their feet, Honorable Speaker, because I believe it was an issue that even those who wanted to support felt there was an issue. Honorable Speaker, the issue of shift, which salaried workers have had an issue with, their teething problems, the benefits seem to be taking long. Those are the issues that we felt that the president should have gone deep into. The issue of housing, once again, which is salaried workers have had an issue. But Honorable Speaker, this is an issue that will take time for the benefits. But we also need to speak to Kenyans about what it will benefit us 10, 15, 20 years down the line. Honorable Speaker, the president spoke about abductions. I must admit, Honorable Speaker, I didn't find the response quite satisfactory unless he was admitting there's a rogue team out there that is conducting these abductions. What we've been hearing about Kizza Besigye and other persons who have been abducted, Honorable Speaker, is something that is of concern. Honorable Speaker, the president spoke about JSS education, where he's done very well with the classrooms, especially for us here in Nairobi. He's done quite a bit, and we appreciate that. The issue of university funding, Honorable Speaker, I felt this fell short. And there was quite a bit that needs to be done. Honorable Speaker, these projects that I've just mentioned are large projects. And I fear that at times we are forgetting what the common mwananchi wants, the smaller projects. Food prices, that was something very good, and we know that food prices have come down. The price of unga has come down. The issue of job creation, this is an issue where the president is working at it, but more needs to be done. The issue of other basic needs, roads, hospitals, TVETs, something that this government promised to do in the remaining constituencies that don't have TVETs. The issue of even climate resilience of Nairobi River, which we believe the government is doing very well. These are some of the things, Honorable Speaker, that this government must start looking at. These are the issues that touch on people. Honorable Speaker, I would have hoped that the president, having met the various members of parliament in various meetings, that he'd first consider now of having a constituency or ward-based budgeting, where we consider, for instance, $1 billion for each constituency. Honorable Speaker, I've just come from public participation where I was listening to members debating on, talking about NGCDF in my constituency. And the projects they were speaking about, some going beyond the NGCDF, I would need about $2 or $3 billion to do all that. Honorable Speaker, if we put some of this money in some of these constituencies, we'll start making real changes down there to the common mwananchi, and it will be a game changer for this country. Honorable Speaker, the issue of corruption. Cases of corruption must end within 6 months. This is something that needs to be done. The ICT hubs, which is a dream child of the president, this is something that they need to come out and equip these studios down there. Honorable Speaker, as I finalize, our job as the National Assembly is oversight. Let this House not be seen as a sycophant of the executive. Let us criticize where we think the government is going wrong, where the government is, when they're doing something right, let us applaud them. And by doing so, we will make the executive stronger. We will help the president achieve the mandate and ensure that we give Kenyans a better Kenya. It is important that this House does not lose its voice going forward. This is something Kenyans have felt, that the House has been captured, and we must ensure going forward this House speaks for the country. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable Cherorot.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this chance.
Honorable Tom Odege in the House. Oh, fair. Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this chance so that I can be able to contribute to the State of the Nation address which was given by His Excellency, the President, Dr. William Samoei Ruto. Mr. Speaker, I've heard so many people saying that it was a wonderful speech, which I also support. And I will say that, Mr. Speaker, this is a reflection of what the President has been doing for the last 2 years. This is just like a report card which we were given. And I want to say that this has happened because our President is so resilient, and he has really managed to turn around the economy of this country. This speech, or the speech, actually gives hope to all Kenyans and gives us a direction. And that means that our president has a focus and a direction to take this country, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, our president covered so many areas. And I want to say that there have been so many areas in this country, especially even departments and other areas which has been neglected. But this speech actually gives hope to most of Kenyans who have been actually suffering economically and all that. And I want to say, Mr. Speaker, right now as Kenya, we have a direction to go. On matters as education, Mr. Speaker, the speech actually, or the president touched a lot about education in our country. Of late, we've been actually having challenges with our universities, and our universities were going to collapse, Mr. Speaker. But the president actually, through his wisdom, I can say that our universities are picking up now. The issue of more university, as he mentioned, is because of administration issues, which I know is going to be tackled. Mr. Speaker, the president also mentioned about the school fees for our students, especially those who are in colleges. The 95% which is being paid for vulnerable students from poor families. As we know, Mr. Speaker, education is an equalizer. And that is what the president actually has taken care of, because I know we will be having students from vulnerable families, families who are low economically, and those students, Mr. Speaker, can be able to have a chance of also going to school like any other kid in this country, Mr. Speaker. About the issue of corruption, the president was very clear that, Mr. Speaker, this country, we have to avoid and make sure Kenyans actually are not involved in corruption matters, Mr. Speaker. And this is a clear way and an indication that Kenyans, if we want to grow economically, we have to fight corruption. And it has to start from ourselves, Mr. Speaker. Our president also mentioned about the issue of GBVs, as we've heard, Mr. Speaker. This has been a big, big problem, the femicide, Mr. Speaker, whereby our women are being killed, and instead, he actually mentioned that boys should not use their masculine to fight women. And this is a very clear indication that the president is a president who cares. This one also, Mr. Speaker, should be also extended. There is this incident in Kiambu, which, Mr. Speaker, I would like to say that this one has to be taken seriously, whereby this house girl actually has been tortured by the employer, and she was forced to jump. She was forced to jump from 4th floor, and she broke her legs, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that this country, we have a listening president. The issue of Adani, which was mentioned also, the president had to cancel. And I want to say this was a challenge maybe from the PPP Secretariat and those who are handling. And it's a lesson for all of us, Mr. Speaker, that if there is any PPP to be handled in this country, it has to be taken with all due respect, and due diligence should be done. And all the PPPs, we should ask ourselves whether it has value for money. And I know with that, Mr. Speaker, we'll be able to develop as a country, and this country will be able to go to the higher level. For that reason, Mr. Speaker, I want to congratulate the president for taking us.
The Honorable Member for Nyatike, followed by MP for Kisauni and MP for Sigor. We'll go in that order. We still have a few more members who will have a Ruku, you will have, a commentary will have, all of you will have. Proceed, Yakundi SM.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Speaker.
If you take as little as possible,
it's okay.
Now.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to react on the speech which was delivered by Head of State in this House. There are a number of positives which I picked from the speech, and notably, number one, for the first time, the President appeared before us here with no political connotation, which was a very clear signal that he is ready to unite the country, is ready to push the country forward, and his priority has wholesomely been zeroed into development and how he can unite the country, which I think was very positive and commendable to all of us. Some of us who have been in the opposition benches have been very keen trying to pick issues so that we can hit on him and the government. I think he left us with no reason to come out and pick negativity out of his speech. He made it very clearly, and all leaders in this country, I think we have a reason to support his new approach in the political arena in this country. It was very good and very uniting and very straightforward to the development which we need in this country. Number two, on the issues of education, I would say he came out very clearly, and I want to congratulate him for having come out and fixed the issue which was affecting our universities. When the universities were on strike, everybody in this country was concerned. Now that the universities have gone back, I would urge him to go deep into the root cause of the problems in the universities, and we fix it once and for all. We don't want next year to see universities on strike again. Those workers in the university who are taking care of our students should be made comfortable so that this idea of strikes can come to an end and our people can get positive education from our universities. On agriculture, as most of our members here have pointed it out, I would say the effort put in agricultural sector has bore a number of fruits, because now we can clearly say that there are some hope in agricultural sector for improvement and harvest, which will sustain food security in this country. On this issue of killings which are affecting our ladies, even though it came out and it's very painful to all of us, but I would want us to look into it keenly, because as a country, people cannot rise all of a sudden and start killing each other. I think the stress level in this country should be re-examined. Kenyans must be going through very difficult situation in this country. Even though we are talking about inflation coming rate, the cost of living has not come down. And people are now trying to vent their stress in wrong areas. That's why we are seeing a number of deaths. Even though some of our colleagues here have urged the ladies to be careful, it's true, security starts with yourself. But again, that security which starts with yourself should also make you to be self-protective. You protect yourself as you protect others. No one have a right to kill another one. If that one can reach a level where we are today, then we need to come out very strongly against it, but the government need to go deep and examine the stress level in this country, because there is something wrong. We may be treating symptom, but the real disease is lying somewhere. That's why you can see things which you cannot report yourself as happening in your own country. It is something which is unbearable, and we need to re-look into it. On Adani issue, I just want to urge our president not to abandon the issue of PPP, because this country cannot develop without PPP. But let us do them above the board, which will not attract criticism from all corners of this country. We need to go and do something better. Like now, if you compare Ethiopian airport with the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, Jomo Kenyatta International Airport is a shame compared to Ethiopia, because we are not doing any business here. When you look at the number of passengers going through that airport currently, it's not even a third of what we are seeing in Ethiopia. It's a very, very concern which we have to tackle as a country and ensure that we compete where we are supposed to be. If we are now competing with Dar es Salaam, Rwanda, I think we are not in that league. There must be something very wrong for us as a country when it comes to transportation by air. We need to do something. If PPP will solve it, let us allow PPP to come in, but let it be done above board so that we don't come across.
Give him a minute. You have a minute to wrap up. Proceed.
Yeah, so that we don't repeat what has happened, which has caused a lot of embarrassment to our country. But we need an airport which can compete with Ethiopia, not Rwanda, not Tanzania. That's where we are supposed to go as a country. On SHA, people have talked a lot about it. I don't want to repeat, but what I'm saying, the success of SHA will depend on government facilities, county referral hospitals, all the Kenyatta hospitals, Moi teaching and referral, all government facilities. No matter how we fund SHA, if the government facilities will not add to what we need as Kenyans, SHA will not succeed. We need facilities well facilitated by the government, not a facility where you go and you are told to go and buy medicine. Kenyans will lose faith in SHA if the government facilities are not well fixed. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Bedzimba.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika kunipa fursa na mimi niweze kupenyeza sauti yangu kwa kuichangia hotuba ya Mheshimiwa Rais aliyokuja kuizungumza hapa kwa taifa. Kwanza nizungumzie swala la Adani. Kandarasi ya Adani, Mheshimiwa Rais kuivunjilia mbali ama kuifutilia mbali amefurahisha Wakenya wengi, kwa sababu ni jambo ambalo lilikuwa limeleta utata mkubwa. Wafanyikazi wote walikuwa na wasiwasi kwamba badala sisi tumeandikwa kulipwa kwa mwezi, sasa tunabadilishwa kuwa na contract, na hali ambayo ni ya utata mkubwa kuona Wakenya wakiona rasilimali yetu tunayotegemea kwamba kuna mtu atakuja kuisimamia kwa miaka 30. Kwa hivyo ilikuwa ni wasiwasi mkubwa. Alipoifuta amefanya jambo zuri la kwamba amesikiza wananchi vilivyo wananchi, na kiongozi yote ni yule ambaye anasikiza wananchi. Kwa hivyo hilo tunampongeza Mheshimiwa Rais. Nikija katika upande wa shilingi kuwa na nguvu, kweli shilingi yetu ilikuwa imekosa thamani kubwa. Hata ulikuwa ukienda kwa nchi jirani peke yake kubadilisha pesa yetu ya Kenya, wanaikataa, wanasema hii pesa yenu sasa haieleweki kwa sababu leo iko hivi, kesho iko chini zaidi. Lakini imeimarishwa mpaka sasa dola sasa kidogo inaheshimu kwamba pesa yetu ikienda mahali inaheshimika. Na hiyo basi kushuka kwa dola, wananchi ama sisi tunategemea kwamba taifa wakati limeimarika kiupande wa pesa za kigeni na hali ya uchumi kama mafuta yaweze kushuka bei, isisimame ama isipande kwa sababu dola imeanguka. Kwa hivyo bado wananchi wanategemea kwamba madhali dola inaendelea vizuri na pesa zitashuka, ili kusudi mwananchi aweze kujikimu ama gharama za maisha zisiweze kupanda juu. Mheshimiwa Spika, tuje katika upande wa SHA. SHA mimi mwenyewe nimeshuhudia wagonjwa wa moyo katika hospitali ya rufaa ya Mombasa, Coast General Hospital. Kuna mgonjwa ambaye alienda kuwekwa pacemaker ama kifaa ambacho kinaweza kufanya moyo wake upige kwa sawa. Amewekwa na bili yake ikaja 1.3 million. 1.3 million, na nikashangaa kuona SHA imemlipia 1.1 million hapo. Kwa hivyo nimeona ni jambo ambalo linaonekana kama watalitilia bidii, kama hawatabadilika, hii SHA itasaidia sana mwananchi wa kawaida. Na vile vile ukiangalia SHA level 2, level 3, level 4 hospitals, wewe tu ukipiga tu kwenye simu yako kujiregister *147#, wewe watibiwa bure. Kwa hivyo hii inaonekana ikiwa itaendelezwa vile inavyoendelea sasa, itakuja saidia mwananchi wa chini kwa ukubwa sana. Na Mheshimiwa Spika, ni kwamba hivi sasa SHA kulipa kwa mwezi ni shilingi 300. NHIF ilikuwa ni shilingi 500. Kwa hivyo SHA kwa mwaka ni 3600. Kwa hivyo nina imani kwamba ikiwa watajipanga vizuri, itakuwa ni jambo ambalo la busara sana, kwa sababu matibabu yako ghali sana, mwananchi wa kawaida hayawezi. Na hata NHIF ilikuwa na uzito mmoja, wakati unaambiwa unangoja approval, unaweza ngoja masaa 3, masaa 5 kabla hata kupewa hiyo ruhusa ya kwamba sasa mpeni hiyo dawa ama atolewe. Lakini SHA kwa sasa ni kwamba ukituma hoja ama ukingoja approval haichukui muda. Kwa hivyo tunaona kwamba ikiwa wataendelea namna hii, basi huenda ikasaidia wananchi sana. Kwa sababu hivi sasa juzi tu mimi nimetembelea hiyo hospitali, SHA wamelipa kwa kufikia sasa 21.9 million wamelipa kwa wagonjwa wa moyo, kwa sababu nimetembelea katika hiyo sehemu ndio nikapata habari zaidi. Kwa hivyo tunampongeza rais kwamba hii SHA aitilie mkazo na aweke watu ambao wataweza kuiendeleza zaidi. Tukenda katika upande wa chakula kweli kimekuwa bei zimeshuka, kama ya unga zamani ilikuwa inalipwa 160. Kweli amesema kweli Mheshimiwa Rais kwamba sasa chakula bei ya unga imeshuka, lakini shida iliyoko ni kwamba uchumi wa taifa unaimarika ikiwa umeingia katika mifuko ya wananchi. Ikiwa wananchi wana fedha, basi ule uchumi huwa ni mzuri. Lakini kama mwananchi hana fedha, basi inakuwa sasa uchumi tu una uchumi wa kuzungumziwa, lakini mwananchi atakuwa hajausikia. Nikimalizia, kwa sababu muda wangu nimeona umekwisha, kazi za mataifa ya nje. Mheshimiwa Spika, ni kweli zimekuja juzi na zimesaidia watoto wetu wengi, lakini
wakati wanadidimia na waheshimiwa wengi wako, lakini tafadhali chukua nusu dakika.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika kuniongezea nusu dakika. Nasema ni kwamba hizi kazi kama zimekuja 100,000 zipelekwe sehemu kama Mombasa, Eldoret, Nakuru, sio Nairobi. Wengine hawana fare hao vijana kuja hapa. Kwa hivyo kule katika sehemu walioko wapelekewe zile kazi zisaidie, ama watu watasema kwamba kazi zile zimekuja kwa ubaguzi. Kwa hivyo ikiwa zitakuja zingine kama za Jerumani, za Uajemi, za sehemu yote, zigawanywe katika eneo hizi za taifa ili kila mmoja aweze kufaulu. Kwa haya mengi,
Mheshimiwa Sigor.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity. First of all, I want to
Proceed.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker. I want to contribute to the debate on the State of the Nation address by His Excellency the President, which was delivered in this House last week. Honorable Speaker, I want to say that that speech was full of hope to Kenyans. And I think it met the expectations of Kenyans because His Excellency the President, in his address, gave a hope to Kenyans. Honorable Speaker, listening to the President, and the whole government was here. Members of Parliament were here, the judiciary was here, and the executive were also present and listening to the President from this chamber. I want to say that the President talked to all of us, and he did indicate that listening is a full-time work of leaders or leadership. And I want to say that he was speaking to all of us, that it is, as leaders, it is important that we listen. And through the listening, we will be able to make right decisions. We'll be able to make plans and programs that will positively impact and affect Kenyans. Now, Honorable Speaker, I want to say a few things that I captured that are very positive from the speech of His Excellency the President during this address. One is that he did indicate that the shilling has gained against the dollar by trading at 129 shillings, down from 162. That was very positive. Two, inflation reduced from 9.6% to 2.7%. That is something that the President did indicate. That is quite positive. Three, we have employed so many teachers in this country through this administration. That was brought out very clearly, having employed about 56,000 teachers already. So that is something that is very positive. We have also, from the address of the President again, now the sugar factories are up and running, 17 of them. And from that, this country is now becoming sugar sufficient. And I think that this is something that we need to sincerely commend the President for ensuring that this happens. And in the fight against corruption, His Excellency the President, and through this administration, has embarked on a program for digitizing government services. This is one way of also eliminating corruption when government services are automated and digitized. From 350, when this administration came into place, to now about over 20,000. In fact, 20,850 government services now that are being accessed through the digital platform. I think this is something that we need sincerely to commend this administration for. And then each arm of government also had its own share from the comment of the President, that parliaments were also called out for trying to delay the conflict of interest bill, which is in this House. And again, even the judiciary were also called out that cases that are taken there are taking forever. And I think this has to be looked at so that now dispensing of justice and cases, especially corruption cases that are taken to the judiciary, must be dispensed within the shortest time possible. Now, Honorable Speaker, the cancellation of Adani procurement, where the President did direct that the Ministry of Transport and the Ministry of Energy to cancel at whatever stage the procurement process was, that it should be cancelled. I think that is something that was received very positively by Kenyans, and I think we also want to commend the President for listening to Kenyans. And then, Honorable Speaker, the Treasury was also directed to ensure that the e-procurement is working, because they have been dragging their feet, and that was, they were directed to do that. Then, Honorable Speaker, the Taifa Care is something that is going to ensure that all Kenyans are going to access health services, and they were going to benefit from this. It's only a matter of time, and the President did tell Kenyans that you register so that you can benefit and get the benefits accruing from the Taifa Care rollout in this country. So, Honorable Speaker, I want to say that we need to support the President, because the President did indicate that he has laid a firm foundation for the takeoff of this country, and we now expect.
The Honorable Member for Kitutu, Chache, and Order. Kitutu Chache, if you take exactly 2 minutes, you'll be able to give us an opportunity to two other members of parliament, and then we adjourn the House.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. I also want to commend the President on the State of the National Address the other day. Clearly, the President gave us a scorecard of his implementation for the last 2 years when he came into government. And he clearly showed us that for the last 2 years, he's been the President, the kind of work that he has been doing. And he clearly showed us and sold a lot of hope to Kenyans by telling us on how he has been able, the policies that he put in place and the macroeconomic policies that he put in place on issues to do with commodities, price of food commodities have been able to come down. The price of unga has been able to come down. The price of the dollar has been able to come down. And we commend him so much because of that. We also commend him because we saw him traveling across the country, and Kenyans were very agitated that time when he was signing labor bilateral agreements. And we clearly see out of that, we have been able to employ so many young people out of this country. They've been able to go out of this country to get formal employment, which will able to impact a lot in the GDP of this country. He talked about employment of TSC teachers, 46,000 teachers for the last 2 years, which is a good thing. He talked about the JSS classes, which we've been able to build about 11,000 JSS classes for the last 2 years, which is a very good thing, and which clearly shows.
The Honorable Lekumentare, you probably should also take just about 2 minutes, and then use MP for Wajir West, another 2 minutes.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
We will have to adjourn for the day.
Yeah, thank you for this chance. Mr. Speaker, I just want to say something about this presidential address. The speech of the President, Mr. Speaker, was a very promising one to most Kenyans. And Mr. Speaker, the President really talked to Kenyans, the challenges the Kenyans has currently, he tried to address. And I think, Mr. Speaker, maybe what he has said in this speech, the government now has to implement what is remaining. If you look at about the education, the challenges in our universities need to be addressed. And even, Mr. Speaker, the chair issue, it's not really covering everybody currently. In some other places, they are not working. And I think, Mr. Speaker, the very important thing President said even several times when he was campaigning, that there will be no any other abduction in Kenya. And Mr. Speaker, we are still missing some people. People are missing. And Mr. Speaker, if nobody is abducting, then the government has to be alert so that our people will not disappear. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, the House has a tradition. The tradition is the maximum that you can use the discretion is 5 minutes, and I don't intend to alter that tradition today. Honorable members, the time being 9:05 p.m. Order. The time being 9:05 p.m. Like I said, even in the previous session, the Honorable Member for Wajir West and the Honorable Ruku will have an opportunity at the very first beginning tomorrow when we resume for the same. I'll make sure that the chair has that communication if you're there on time. Honorable members, The time being 9:05 p.m., this House stands adjourned until tomorrow, Tuesday, the 26th of November, 2024, at 9:30 a.m.